Okay, Skelly, it's we're up to about 61 participants, and that's about 60% of the people that we had that registered, and it's 8:03. And in the interest of time, EDC is nothing but trying to make sure we're valuing everyone's time signing in and joining us. So if everyone could remember to stay muted, we won't have as much feedback as possible. And feel free at any time to use the chat button and put your question in as you recall it. Skelly will be our moderator today, and she will be managing all the questions at a Q&A period at the end, but she will also be answering questions during this presentation. So please feel free to send those questions into us, and we'll get them to them as quickly as possible. So good Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to our inaugural program, Zero Waste, what it is, why it is important, and how to get started. And this is a presentation that's a joint partnership between the Chester County Solid Waste Authority, the Chester County Economic Development Council, and the Smart Energy Initiative. And we're saying inaugural because we hope that we'll have many more as we move forward. This morning, we're very fortunate to have with us the chair of the County Commissioners, Marian Moskowitz, who will give us her opening comments.
There we go. Had to unmute. Good morning, everyone. As you all know, we live in a county characterized by abundance. Chester County was recently identified as the wealthiest county in Pennsylvania, as one of the wealthiest counties in the country, and is ranked as one of the top 5 counties nationwide for quality of life. We see this in our towns. Westchester's downtown was named the greatest Main Street in America by the Great American Main Street Awards in 2017. We see this in our commitment to land preservation and the environment. 29% of the open space in Chester County is protected. And we see the quality of life in our highly ranked schools and the education level of our workforce. 52% of adults in Chester County have earned a bachelor's degree. Critical services, water supply, power, and waste management are services we often do not consider except when they become unreliable. But these services are fundamental to businesses and our quality of life. In Chester County, we have an award-winning landfill and a 65% recycling rate. We captured landfill gas to produce power. We are installing solar panels, and this year we have developed our first zero waste plan. A zero waste plan promotes a circular economy, a system that redesigns the flow of resources and along the way reduces greenhouse gases, hazardous substances, air and water pollution. Pursuing a path to zero waste is in keeping with our county's most closely held values: respect for the environment, a commitment to preserving resources for future generations, and drive for innovation that spurs a robust economy. Working towards a circular economy is a long-term commitment, but each step along the way brings advantages to our environment and to our businesses by delivering products that are increasing in demand in our region and throughout the world. Saint-Gobain, whose North American headquarters is in Chester County, is designing building materials that can be reused when a structure reaches the end of its useful life. So rather than generating construction and demolition waste when we rebuild, we can see a building bank as a material bank. Westchester University has a pack it up, pass it on program to reduce waste during the university's move out program. And because the number 1 contributor to landfills by volume, Kimberton Food offers compostable produce bags that can be tossed into your home compost pile along with lettuce that has passed its prime. We can do more working together, which is why we're here today for our inaugural Zero Waste event. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the Solid Waste Authority and the Economic Development Council for their leadership. William Penn, who founded Chester County in 1682, is credited with saying, "I expect to pass through this life but once. If therefore there be any kindness I can show or any good thing I can do to any fellow being, let me do it now and not defer or neglect it. as I shall not pass this way again. The option to defer this work to future generations is no longer available. The health of our planet and the overall health of our community and humanity in general are not mutually exclusive. They are one and the same, and our ability to strike this balance will determine our ability to not just preserve the sanctity of an endangered global ecosystem, but to preserve our own safety and well-being. After all, there is no planet B. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope you enjoy this morning.
Chairman, thank you so much for being here. It is deeply meaningful to have you here to kick off this event. I'm super excited to introduce you to our panelists, and I am just as excited for them to hear from you. We really have an incredible amount of expertise and experience on this call, looking at the registration list. So we really do want this to be interactive. We will be monitoring the chat. So after we've built in a little bit of time to do questions after each of our presenters, and then we've got 20 minutes at the end of our program just for Q&A and discussion. So you can ask questions directly to me, to Skelly, in the chat, or you can ask them to everyone, which is actually a really cool way to sometimes start some dialogue amongst participants in the chat. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first panelist, who's going to help us understand how to keep our resources in play rather than throwing them away. And Mary Frances, am I hitting the right? I'm not missing anything, am I?
I have to go back. Well, we had the introduction to the panelists, but we just wanted to give just a quick, brief overview for people who don't know who the Economic Development Council is and our partners, because Patty will come in and talk about who the Solid Waste Authority is. So the Chester County Economic Development Council has been in place for more than 61 years, and our goal and mission is to encourage growth, smart growth, and preservation in Chester County. We work with many corporations, big and small, throughout the region, and we're proud to have a long tradition of supporting the economic health of Chester County. You can see that we're also 501c3 as well as a C6, and so we can do a lot of youth programming through our workforce development efforts. We're also governed by a board of directors of 35 business and community leaders with an operating budget of around $3 million. Right now we have a staff of about 35 people, and we work in 3 key areas. We work to provide working capital for businesses, because every business needs financing and they need to be able to find working capital for their businesses. We work in location services. Every company needs a place to operate their business. And we work in workforce development. Every company needs workforce. So these 3 key industry clusters, along with our innovative spirit and our assistance for our startup community, are the 4 key areas of Chester County's Economic Development Council's initiatives. Right now, I'll send it back to you, Skelly, to do the other introductions. Skelly is the Executive Director of the Water Resources Association of the Delaware River Basin, and she is our moderator today. Back to you, Skelly.
Thank you. That was very gracious. I got so excited, I jumped in too soon. I also serve on the board of the Chester County Solid Waste Authority. It is one of the things I enjoy doing most. I am so proud of how we handle waste in our county, and I really appreciate the commissioner's introduction. Our first panelist today works for the Chester County Solid Waste Authority. She's got a master's in teaching, which is super helpful as she works to teach us all how to recycle. She is our recycling resources manager. You know, it's always a pleasure to work with someone who deeply cares about their job and has an incredible amount of enthusiasm, and that is Patty Lynn, our next panelist. She has developed recycling programs on local and county levels for 15 years. Patty Lynn, welcome to the panel. Yeah.
Thank you, Skelly. Yes, I am the Recycling Resources Manager for the Chester County Solid Waste Authority, which operates one of the landfills in Chester County. It's the Lanchester landfill, and it is the landfill that services most of the county. And I just want to thank the Economic Development Council for partnering with us to kick off our zero waste plan, which was recently adopted by the Solid Waste, Chester County Solid Waste Authority Board. And we have a lot of participants here. It looks like 77 people. I don't know you in the audience, but I know something about you. And what I know about you so far is that you really care about the environment. And that's why you're tuning in today. When we think about the environment, we think about air and water and land. And of those three elements of the environment, land is really the one that seems to be the most concrete. And garbage is very concrete because we generate it every day and we can see it and we can smell it and we hear the trash trucks, and therefore we feel like we can control it. And some of the ways that we have been controlling garbage over the last 30 years is through the recycling mandates. And we're doing a good job of recycling. Recycling 30 years ago was a job that no one wanted to do, to separate their garbage out and, into glass by colors, if you want to go back 30 years. But it's evolved into now a habit that we really all want to do. I'm going to start sharing my slides here. Let's see. Okay. The zero waste hierarchy really sort of explains what zero waste is. As I said, we do a good job of recycling, but when you look at this hierarchy, you see that recycling is not at the top, it's in the middle. What is at the top? The zero waste hierarchy declares that reducing waste and then reusing things instead of disposing of them are at the top of the hierarchy. Those are the most important things. It sort of evolved through solid waste professionals. I kind of call it smart solid waste thinking. And there are even some zero waste hierarchies that put avoid, just the word avoid, at the top. In other words, if you don't need it, don't buy it. The zero waste plan that we have at the Solid Waste Authority, we talk about the recycling rate, but we also kind of rethink this to, instead of using that as the metric, to using disposal per capita, which is kind of a better indicator of how well we are doing. Zero waste, just to give you a little bit of background, it started with some social activism in the mid-90s. It started actually as it was called No Waste. And it had evolved into zero waste. The first zero waste conference was in New Zealand in the year 2000. So it is about 20 years old. We do hear more about it now. The Zero Waste International Alliance, because it's gone international now, has a very wordy definition of what zero waste really means, but here's what you need to know. Their definition really is that 90% of waste is diverted from landfills or incinerators. So zero waste is, you don't need to really take it literally. The idea here, of course, is to reduce waste and to divert from landfills and incinerators. It's a big idea, it's a concept, it's a goal. It starts at the beginning, not at the end. You need to really look at, what are you bringing into your business or your home? And when we make purchasing decisions, we should be thinking about the end life of those things. Can we repair them? Are we going to have to just throw them away? Can we recycle them? Can we donate them? Can we use them for other purposes? And starting at the beginning also means product design, package design, mining for the elements that we use in technology, for example, drilling oil to make plastic, all those things. So it's really a paradigm shift. And what it should do is make you rethink, react, and reduce the waste to try and minimize environmental impacts. My emphasis, of course, is on solid waste, working for the Solid Waste Authority, but zero waste really does also encapsulate energy, renewable energy and things like that. So what I want you to know really is that you have choices. You can't do zero waste all by yourself. You really need a team of people. And when we hear from Bradley and Pat, I, for one, am looking forward to hearing about their successes as well as their challenges, and that they'll be able to share that information with all of you in the audience. But you can't do it alone, and you really can't do it all. And the triple bottom line, people, planets, and profit, all have to be taken into consideration. You want to do what's good for society. You want to try and do what's good for the environment. And of course, for the economy and your livelihood and your business. I like to look at things from different perspectives. So I pose the question here, what if we did not embrace zero waste? The black and white photograph is one of my favorite photographs. It is from Life magazine in 1955. And the title of that photo is Throwaway Living. And it kind of encapsulates the World War II, post-World War II generation, where having material things was a sign of success. And disposability became really the norm. I can remember Dixie cups, for example, when I was a kid, that my mother would buy because she wouldn't have to wash so many glasses in the sink. And, it was advertised as something, to save time and it's a throwaway society. So if we didn't embrace zero waste, we would still have to have some impacts of mining and harmful manufacturing processes. We'd be considering our current disposal practices, or we might not be considering the current disposal practices. And some of the manufacturers actually do plan for obsolescence. Technology and fashion are two examples of this that are pretty widespread. And I will take questions later. I'm going to turn that back over to Skelly.
Skelly, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Thank you very much. Patty, we've got one question from the audience about looking at the plan for 2021. Could you talk about maybe one aspect of the zero waste plan, just to help us understand a little bit about how we're going to get started with all this?
Well, we're getting started right now, I think. But with our zero waste plan kind of divides things into the municipal, local residential kind of waste stream, and then the commercial and the business, what they can do. Schools and institutions are also in there. But we have a timeline. Chester County is really diverse in terms of how they collect trash, how they collect recyclables. And sometimes it's not real consistent. So that's a challenge. I work with some of the local committees and organizations, like, for example, the Sustainability Committee, Environmental Action Committee, Environmental Advisory Committee locally. And I am always looking for enthusiastic people who locally, because everything really does start locally, right? Who might want to, say, pilot a program that is helping us towards our goal of zero waste. For example, sharing, doing a collaborative consumption project, sharing some resources, maybe learning more about food waste, something like that. And I think that those are programs that we could develop with the Solid Waste Authority and try and help you with. So, you know, they usually do start small, but we want to try and grow this. Purchasing of products is something that businesses can be looking into, doing a waste audit. Anybody really can do a waste audit. You can do one in your own home, actually. So there's a lot of moving parts to the zero waste plan. It's not something that's all going to be achieved in 1 year. We have things on our solid waste plan that have end dates of 2022. I think we actually have a couple might be 2023. So, you know, I act as a resource to the municipalities and really anybody in Chester County. I'm happy to help whoever would like some help. And, you know, we'd love to kind of grow the program. And, you know, we do take a lot of information, or a lot of inquiries rather, from residents also. And we answer every single one that we get.
Yeah, I will tell you, Patty is a great resource. And thank you also to Patty Spackman for your comment. You are going to hear a little bit about Terracycle later in the program. And we will also make sure to mention your comment in the Q&A. So with that, we are going to move on to Brad Flam, he's got a great title, Director of Westchester University's Office of Sustainability. He works with a large community of students, faculty, staff, and neighbors active in Westchester University's Sustainability Council. The university actually has an ambitious climate action plan. It includes sustainability as just one of 5 priority areas, and it's called the Pathway to Student Success. Brad's got a really diverse background. He is a professional transportation planner. He's a researcher and instructor. He is a food security analyst, was a food security analyst in sub-Saharan Africa. And of course, he's an environmental advocate. We are thrilled to have him here today. Brad, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Skelly. I appreciate that kind introduction. And I appreciate all the organizers of this conversation this morning for including me as part of the panel. I'm looking forward to telling you a bit about our work at Westchester University, but I'm also eager to learn from the other panelists. So I'm grateful to be here this morning. Let me share my screen. Right. I have been the director of Westchester University's Office of Sustainability for almost 4 years now. The office was created in 2017 to help lead campus efforts to achieve a set of ambitious goals that were written down in our climate action plan, which the university's just past president, Greg Weisenstein, signed in 2013. That campus climate action plan included 7 priority areas, including reducing our carbon emissions, tracking those and finding ways to bring them down to zero. It also included a heavy focus on our educational mission and bringing sustainability concepts into our community's teaching and scholarship. We also focused on other areas such as developing more sustainable transportation systems and purchasing processes. And of course, one of the priority areas was working on the management of materials and energy as they come onto our campus, and as we ultimately have to figure out how to send them off our campus in one form or another. So we have tried to incorporate the concept of zero waste into the work we do. And I'm grateful to Patty for giving us a good definition of it. And explaining some of the complexities of it, that it's not just about recycling versus the landfill or the incinerator, but there's much more to it. This definition that I'm showing here now is not a formal definition that the university has adopted, but we have been using it to help us think about the use and ultimate disposal of materials on our campus. This is a definition by our organization called the Zero Waste International Alliance. And we like it because it makes it clear that we're not just talking about landfills and recycling centers, that we're thinking about the entire life cycle of materials that we use to do the work that we do to accomplish the mission that the university has set for itself. And it helps us think about not just what we're going to do when we've used materials and need to dispose of them, but what materials we bring onto campus in the first place and how we are thinking about the choices of those purchases. One thing about this definition that I wanted to mention, and Patty touched on this too, is that we often think about it in terms of a key metric that is called the diversion rate. And many people understand the concept of zero waste to mean that we are diverting at least 90% of materials that leave our campus or a company or a home to some sort of reuse, repurposing, recycling, rather than going to the landfill or the incinerator. And that's important, and that is part of the work that we are doing. But the diversion rate is actually fairly complicated and doesn't capture all of the things that we want to focus on in terms of zero waste. If we're reducing materials that come onto our campus in the first place, then the diversion rate won't be capturing the fact that we've actually reduced by being more efficient with our resources in the first place. So we're keeping in mind that idea of a diversion rate, but we're also keeping this more complex notion, incorporating all those R words that Patty referenced, repurpose and reuse and recycling. Some of our students like to talk about a sixth R of simply being rot, referring to food scrap. Our campus and going to composting labs. Now, this idea we are trying to bring into not just our waste and recycling processes and practices, but into our larger planning processes. And as Skelly mentioned, we have a strategic plan on campus called Pathways to Student Success. It has 5 priority areas. And so in addition to learning and personal and professional development and diversity and inclusion and community engagement, sustainability is one of those 5 key areas. And the way we handle our resources and this concept of zero waste is a key part of the university's strategic plan. We also have a climate action plan, which focuses on our carbon neutrality commitment, as well as some of these other sustainability areas that I talked about before, transportation sustainability and purchasing and the way we do our work with partners in the community, our community engagement. So those 2 key documents really drive the work that we're doing. We are also working with a nonprofit organization based in Philadelphia called the Post-Landfill Action Network. It's a group formed by students and supported by colleges and universities across the country at this point. And we're fortunate they're located in Philadelphia, so close to us. They have a program called the Atlas Program that we are working with this year to conduct a zero waste assessment of all of our materials use and disposal practices on campus. We're going to be looking at everything from our purchasing policies to our ultimate disposal of materials that leave campus. And we are in the process of ending one contract with a hauling company and considering applicants for a new contract. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because we have worked into the work we're doing with this consideration of proposals 4 key areas that are, of course, in addition to all of the operational requirements that are part of any contracting process for waste and recycling hauling. But we wanted to be very clear that these concepts of zero waste are important to the university, and that these 4 priority elements need to be part of our work with any contractor that we engage with. So we want there to be a comprehensive recycling education program that the company can help us with. I know we also want to reach out to the Solid Waste Authority and work with you more closely on this recycling education program on campus. We also want to make sure, because not all haulers do this, that they are using the most up-to-date recycling technology so that we can find ways of recycling as many materials that we can't reuse or repurpose as possible. We also want to make sure that those materials that leave campus and have to go to a landfill are going to a landfill that has effective environmental management practices and is capturing landfill gases rather than letting methane and carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases escape and contribute additional carbon emissions from the university's operations. And many landfills are adopting this technology, but not all of them are just yet. So we wanted to make sure that that was part of the agreement we have with a hauler. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we have accurate and timely data collection for what is leaving our campus so that we can calculate this diversion rate, which I've said is not the only metric we're looking at, but is one of the metrics that we want to be able to look at. This is fairly complicated, actually, to accurately and reliably measure volumes and weights of waste and recyclables, but we are seeing to what extent we can incorporate that information in the contract that we ultimately sign with a hauler. So we are doing these things at the level of the administration of the university, but I've wanted to give credit to student activism at Westchester University, because students have really been pushing much of the work that we do and initiating programs and projects that are helping us both work towards zero waste goals, but also serve as educational opportunities for our community of students, staff, and faculty, as well as our community partners who we work with in the county, in the region. So students on campus have put together a number of initiatives. And I'll start with a small caveat in that many of these initiatives are on pause at the moment because campus is largely closed right now. We have very few students living on campus and attending in-person classes, but these projects have existed and we expect them to kick off again once we're able to safely be back on campus, hopefully in the fall, cross our fingers. So students have initiated a food recovery network effort to make sure that food is not wasted that could be consumed. They collect sandwiches and other food from the several retail outlets on campus that otherwise would go into the waste. And they have diverted tons of food at this point, both to people on campus and to some of our partners in Westchester and the county. Students also initiated a Pack It Up, Pass It On program, which Skelly alluded to earlier. It's a move out day effort to collect household goods, clothing that students otherwise might just put in the dumpster, but to collect it and then be able to find a way to sell or donate those goods to students coming onto campus in the fall semester every year. We kicked this off in 2019 very successfully. We had to put a pause on it in 2020, but the students and my colleagues on campus who are working on this program are looking forward to kicking it off again as soon as we're able to do so safely. Students have conducted waste and recycling audits in our residence halls to identify to what extent students are making appropriate choices about what materials are recyclable and whether there are large contamination rates in the recycling bins. We came to some conclusions that give us reason to think that we need to do better with our educational efforts. But it's good to have that data and to have some empirical evidence to work from. Students have initiated learning opportunities on campus. We had a Zero Waste Summit, a half-day workshop that was attended by about 75 students and staff about a year and a half ago. And students have done other things, such as working with our dining services contractor to remove plastic bags from all of the retail outlets on campus. So at this point, we encourage reusable bags. And for those students who are buying things but don't have a reusable bag, paper bags are available. But we've eliminated plastic bags from all retail outlets on campus, except for our bookstore, which is under a separate management. And students have their sights set on doing better in that way too. There are other efforts on campus other than those I just mentioned and our basic waste and recycling hauling contract. We have an electronics reuse and recycling program that our Information Services and Technology division manages. Our Environmental Health and Safety and our Facilities division have programs to recycle or safely dispose of moving pallets, batteries, smoke alarms, and other items like that. But the university has ongoing challenges that we continue to work on. We have had some pilot programs to compost food scraps in our dining hall. Those were pilot programs that ended at one point. Just before the pandemic, we were hoping to engage with an organization called Kitchen Harvest near Media, Pennsylvania, to reboot our composting program. That had to be put on pause because of the pandemic. And we have a new dining hall under construction right now. If you've been to our campus, you know that the middle of campus is a major construction site right now for a new science and engineering center that will include a new dining hall. As part of that dining hall, we are going to be processing not just pre-consumer food scraps, but post-consumer food scraps as well, and using a system of grinders and dehydrators as one way of dealing with food scraps. We're using this decision and this new technology as a learning opportunity on campus for students to be able to study different options of working with food scraps and their disposal. And we're excited for the possibility of doing some innovative things in this area. And the final challenge I wanted to mention is one that is near and dear to many students on campus. I mentioned the fact that we've eliminated the use of plastic bags in all but one retail location on campus. Students are also hoping we can find a way to eliminate single-use plastic utensils and straws and food containers. That's been a big challenge during the pandemic. We, as many colleges and universities, have done more, not less, takeout service of our food in the dining hall, and that has involved, unfortunately, an increased use of single-use plastic containers. But we are working to find a way, when we're able to be back on campus, to bring those that consumption of single-use plastics down as much as we can. So to conclude, I just want to say that the university has strong commitments to responsible consumption and use of materials. We have a passionate community of students and faculty and staff and community partners, such as members of the Westchester Green Team, who we work with. And we have some ongoing challenges that we continue to work on with those partners. But we are committed to zero waste principles, and we're looking forward to working with the larger community to achieve those goals. Thank you.
Brad, thank you so much. It really is multifaceted. And you know, your last comment addresses something I've been thinking about as I've been watching all these amazing initiatives. If I'm watching you speak and I'm thinking, wow, this is phenomenal. How can I get involved? How can somebody in the community get involved with these things that you're doing?
Well, we do work hard to have productive and positive collaborations with the community. My office works directly with members of the Westchester Green Team and with the municipal government of Westchester Borough and some of the townships in the area. We have a series of events that we sponsor, and those are all promoted on the Office of Sustainability's website, which is easy to find. It's just at the university's website /sustainability. And we try to remain in an ongoing dialogue with those community partners. So for example, the borough, as you know, has been working to reduce the use of plastic bags. There's been a number of different initiatives and efforts to do so, which have been complicated by some decisions at the state level. But the borough is still working with businesses and the community to reduce the use of plastic bags. Our effort to eliminate those has been both an inspiration to the borough, but also a reason for us to continue working harder in these areas. The university, of course, has other partnerships with the larger community that go beyond just my office's work. We have an office on campus for civic engagement and social action that places student volunteers with organizations throughout the county and provides opportunities for the community to engage in some of the work we do on campus.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I think you'll have several people from this call who are going to be getting in touch. Before we move to our next speaker, I do want to say a special thank you to Leslie Relkey. She is with the Chester County Economic Development Council. She runs marketing and creative services for them. She's their resident storyteller, as it were, you know, graphic designs, video production, all the things that we desperately need right now to communicate, because we can't be there in person. We need to see it on a website. We need to see it on a video. Leslie, if you're willing to raise your hand and say hi. I just want to say huge thanks. We couldn't do this event without you. And, you know, it's those kinds of skills we often, they're in the background maybe, and we're not aware of all the hard work it takes. There you are. Good. So huge thanks for co-hosting this event, and for all the work that you do to get the message out there about the amazing things we do in the county. So thank you. So our next panelist is a founder. When people talk about startups, we often think about tech. Our next panelist founded Kimberton Whole Foods. If you have not shopped there, you've got to make a visit. And I promise you, once you visit, this place will be a shopping, become a real shopping destination for you. This is a place where you can find everything that you want. The quality is really good. Everybody who works there is super helpful. It's cozy. You don't feel like you're getting lost in a warehouse. Very visionary. Kimberton Whole Foods was started 30 years ago, and now there are multiple locations. Pat's also author and recipe developer of the Kimberton Whole Foods Cookbook. She's chairperson of the company's climate committee, and she's actively involved in community service. She and her husband Terry have 5 amazing children, and they have 5 grandchildren. And Pat, Brett, we are so honored to have you here today. It's a pleasure to talk to you electronically. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Skelly. And thank you, Patty Lynn and Mary Frances and Leslie, and all the people who put this together. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share. I'm going to start without sharing the screen because there's really nothing to show right at the beginning. I just want to talk about, I'm going to share about our climate committee that we formed at the store, and hopefully other retailers might find some useful things from that. Do I need to share my screen so I'm in the middle? Or am I in the middle now? I know it sounds so dumb. I can't hear you.
Because this is a meeting format, we did this as a meeting format so we could have some more interaction. So I think you're fine where you are, Pat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our climate committee is a group of volunteer team members. We have a representative from each of our 6 stores, also our marketing and administrative offices, and our distribution center, which is our own warehouse, which we utilize to, we utilize it for a lot of things, but it's mostly so that smaller vendors, small farmers, people like that, don't have to deliver to each of our stores. They can deliver once to our distribution center, and then we distribute out to our other stores. I was inspired to create the committee by a workshop I attended in the summer of 2018. It was led by Erin Callahan, who's the director of the Climate Collaborative, which is a consortium of, this is from their website, manufacturers, retailers, distributors, brokers, suppliers, and other concerned businesses from the natural foods industry working collaboratively to take bold action to reverse climate change. So when we started in 2018, prior to the pandemic, obviously, we established once a month meeting schedule, and we have 1-hour meetings, which are conducted with some people are live and others on the conference call. And we took up the advice of and suggestion of the Climate Collaborative. They have 9 action commitments you can commit to as a business. And we focused on the first 2, which were packaging and food waste. So we researched and purchased recyclable and compostable containers for our cafes and food service. We performed a waste audit, and our marketing team designed signage to encourage team members to dispose of their trash in the right stream, because we had a little struggle with that. We purchased compostable bags, as Marion mentioned, for our produce departments, and we added the option of paper bags to our bulk and produce department for people who wanted them. And we're working to eliminate all single-use plastics in our food service. We established, okay, this is where I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can do this. This one. Share, yeah. Sorry, there we go. We established for each of our stores contacts with local farmers who would pick up our vegetable and fruit compost waste for animal feed. We established a relationship with a group called Fiorenza's Food for Friends, which is a donation network that manages, measures, and coordinates the delivery of our close-to-date proteins and overstock products to local charities. And we do a lot of that still. We set up bag trees in each of our retail locations, which were like a coat treat, which was loaded with free reusable bags with the intention of gradually eliminating the need for paper bags and any single-use bags in our stores. We established a no waste, bring your own container option for our cafes and bulk sections, setting up appropriate tear capabilities on our POS system, which is neither here nor there to anybody else. And we trained our front-end team members. One of our CC team members organized a workshop with the Solid Waste Authority, and we had a really lovely PowerPoint show for us that educated us about waste hauling and landfill management and the recycling practices in our Southeastern PA communities. It was very interesting. I participated in the series lead event along with other retailers in a day of meetings with congressional leaders about the damaging effects of climate change on agriculture, because supporting regenerative agriculture is an important part of our mission at Kimberton Whole Foods. We're big supporters of PASA and the Rodale Institute. We prioritize our donations to these groups. And in fact, Kimberton was a founding sponsor of PASA's Save the Soil campaign, which works to train, support, and encourage young farmers. And PASA's 2021 virtual Sustainable Agricultural Conference is taking place right now. It runs from February 1st through the 6th, and you can find information at pasafarming.org. Now, when the pandemic happened, we stopped, we were just too busy to have meetings. So we stopped having meetings from March until August. And we had to put a pause on some of our activities like sharing bags and bringing your own jars and mugs. We had to close our cafes. We had to halt our bulk initiatives. But we continue to reach out to local food pantries who are feeling an acute need for donations. We donate large quantities of frozen protein products to local kitchens, which make meals for those experiencing food scarcity. We have a monthly Roundup at the Register program, which has been ongoing for a couple of years now, where customers can just round up to the closest dollar at the register for various causes. And we switched it in April. We had planned to have it be for conservation groups, but we switched it to food pantries. And at the beginning of the pandemic, Kimberton also committed to matching customer Roundup donations to have a bigger impact. And our total donations to local charities in 2020, from rounding up with our doubling that, totaled just over $129,000. Currently in this month of February, our recipients are nonprofits serving people in need of food and housing in each of the 6 communities around our store locations. So you can see information about this on our website and our social media outlets. Let's see, I can go on to the next slide, yes. We reconvened our monthly meetings in August, and we discovered a lot of new energy to the committee. Several new team members have joined, bringing great ideas for action. And the COVID crisis has refocused our attention in unexpected ways. We engaged with a Webcart online service to provide curbside shopping for our customers. We trained our team members, and we discovered a great way to use our corrugated cardboard boxes rather than putting them in the recycling dumpster, which is what we had been doing. We still generate a lot of cardboard, and that is something we're working on. At the suggestion from a new member, we increased our community environmental cleanup involvement. We're taking part in more stream cleanup days. And over the past few months, we've donated hundreds of bags, snacks, and drinks. Whoops, there we go. To such events, fundraising events such as stream cleanups and tree planting events. Kimberton Whole Foods signed on to the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative to publicly demonstrate our support for Pennsylvania's plan to join the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is a bipartisan effort of 10 Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states to cap and reduce carbon emissions in the electricity sector. Some of our new projects since we reconvened, we visited Mascaro Brothers, which had their state-of-the-art recycling center to explore more effective waste and recycling opportunity for all of the trash which our stores generate. We engaged with, yeah, why does it jump back like that? Stay up. Sorry. We engaged with Terracycle Recycling to keep our team members' nitro gloves out of the trash stream. We access it through Staples, and it's a much better deal. And they send you a box when you ask for it, and you fill it up and you send it back. And we go through about a box a month at each of our stores. At the suggestion of one of our young cashiers, we educated our team members about cutting or removing the ear elastics from disposable masks because they are a danger to birds and wildlife. And as our 4 cafes have begun to reopen, we're being challenged again by the reliance on single-use plastic products because of the ongoing pandemic. So we purchase recyclable products wherever we can, but that's not really the solution that we're happiest with. We continue to use the resources of the Climate Collaborative, which is a great resource for businesses and manufacturers looking for guidance around creating a more sustainable operation. And at present, I'm exploring how to design, and I'd be interested in talking to Brad about this, how to design a position for a sustainability director for our business to help us stay on track as we try to do our part in the effort to combat climate change and continue to incorporate zero waste practices into our businesses. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Pat, thank you so much. We've got a great question from Stephanie with Penn Environment. She said, first of all, she says, love Kimberton Whole Foods. Thank you for supporting the Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Now that we know that COVID is airborne and not surface spread, is there a plan to allow reusable containers for bulk goods at Kimberton? I know the Weaver's Way co-ops in Philly have allowed that back.
I was talking, did another, oh, I have to just say escape, don't I? Are you seeing me now? Or are you
Yes,
stop share?
Yes,
I see. No, stop share. I've got to stop sharing. There we go. I was part of a conference like this put on by the Climate Collaborative, where I talked to a woman who works as a sustainability director for a store in Oregon, and it took them a couple of years to develop a project to be able to have people buy a container, which they could bring back and get refilled, but they have to wash it at their facility. Mm-hmm. So we'd have to establish, a bigger washing service. It was an interesting program, and I'm going to follow up with it, but no, we haven't started to do that yet.
All right, there's another question from Laura McLean, and Laura, correct me if I don't capture this, asking about, can you bring your own containers in for food service to buy food, I guess at the cafe. And, and she's acknowledging that you have to weigh them and realizing there can be some complication.
Our hope is to return to that. That was a service that we provided, but since March, we haven't offered that due to, cleanliness protocols. Sure. But I'm sure we will return to that, because we were also offering with the weighing, people could bring in their own container to get rice or beans or something like that from the bulk section, and the cashiers would just weigh it beforehand, mark what the weight was, and you could get whatever you wanted, and that would be taken off at the register. And we were offering that in the cafe too, but everything's on hold right now. I think
there's a lot happening, but you guys are being very flexible, so well done. I think this is a great time for us to move to panel discussion and open up questions. We will look at the chat and start with questions we have in chat. And I'm going to see if I can bring our 3 main speakers, highlight you all. All right. Put it in. Okay, here we go. All right, so I hope everybody sees our 3 panelists as the main part of their screen. Brad, there was some really good discussion on the chat about plastic bottles. It's something that if people get so fired up about. Do you want to summarize that discussion that was in the chat for folks that didn't see that?
Sure. There was a question specifically about water bottle filling stations on campus and whether we have those. And I'm grateful to a couple of participants who were ahead of me in providing some responses in the chat about that. The university does have a program to install water bottle filling stations in most of our academic buildings. And I don't know the number on campus, but it's many. Most buildings do have them. But we are committed to installing them in more buildings as time goes on and encouraging the use of reusable water bottles rather than purchasing single-use water bottles. There are students on campus who are, as I said, passionate about some of these issues, including the amount of plastic bottles that are disposed of on campus. And it's not just water bottles, of course, it's soda and juice bottles and energy drinks as well. We are having conversations with our dining services contractor, Airmark, about ways that we can reduce those bottles. They still sometimes show up at catered events, back when we had catered events, and we're looking at ways that we can move away from using single-use water bottles and soda bottles to reusable methods to reduce the amount of plastic waste in our waste stream. We'd rather not, even if we can recycle those bottles, we'd rather not have them used at all to reduce that type of materials use. So we're committed to it, we're working on it, and like many people, Pat and Pat described some of the challenges they have with reusable containers. We're struggling with those too, but we're committed to working collaboratively across campus to find solutions.
Yeah, you certainly are. So here's a question. Patty, this may be a question for you. The question is, can any of our speakers address officially approving privately owned haulers for their efforts and results in areas of sustainability? So I'm gonna read that again. Can any of our speakers address the question regarding officially approving privately owned haulers for their efforts or results in areas of sustainability?
That's an interesting question, and I have never gotten that question before. Skelly, I feel like that might be a Solid Waste Authority board discussion to have. As far as I know, we've never done that. Do you know if we've ever done anything like that?
Now, I will tell you, Pat, you mentioned touring the Mascaro facility and how state-of-the-art that is. I mean, I will say that when we contract with recyclers, we really know what they're doing. And for any of you who have gone to Mascaro, it feels a little like magic. Like all this stuff comes in, and then these nice little, a nice bale of this kind of paper, a nice bale of this kind of plastic. So we, you know, the county is doing due diligence on these folks who are doing recycling. You know, the question does get to, I think this question gets to the heart of, you know, we sometimes hear it's futile to recycle, everything's fallen apart since China's not taking our recycling. I think people want to know, I feel like this question is getting to the heart of, how do I know my recycling is really getting treated correctly? And I feel like it's an ongoing challenge. Y'all are welcome to weigh in.
I'll just jump in here. We do get documentation every year. It's actually at this time of year right now, January, February, documentation from haulers who collect recyclables, and they have to, by law, report that information to us at the county level, and at the Solid Waste Authority, we're the organization to do that. And then that information is sent out to municipalities. It's also inputted into a state data management system. The reason it's sent to the municipalities is because the municipalities have to report what they're doing, and the municipalities have the option towards like the middle of the year to participate in a grant from the DEP, whereby they generate revenue, grant funding for their municipality based on how much they can document that they have recycled. It's only for certain eligible materials. It's not for everything, which I think is kind of a weakness in the system there. But nevertheless, we still do, keep track of many pieces of data, lots of numbers. Bradley would be familiar with this, I'm sure. So I just want you to know that they do report to us. They have to do that. As far as, rewarding some or not rewarding some, I think that would really require a whole big discussion. We're kind of a semi-governmental agency. I don't know, what the guidelines would be on that. We do partner with Total Recycle, aka Mascaro, only in the sense that we have a process and marketing contract, which is available to any municipality that wants to participate that does not have private subscription. And we do have 13 municipalities in that program. And the advantage for the municipalities to be in our P&M agreement is that they are getting very competitive, favorable rates on the recycling tonnage that they have to pay for, because there is a fee to collect the recyclables and then process them at this material recovery facility, which Pat said she went to, and it is a state-of-the-art facility. They're taking flexible plastic packaging now in certain cases, and they're doing some pilot programs with that. They're actually the only, I don't know if they're the only one, but they were the first one in the country to be adding that material. So that also, helps our municipalities out. So, that's a contract. That's a contract that is, bid, and we're in the middle of it right now. So Total Recycle happens to be the entity that we work with for that.
And I do want to mention, Brad, you talked about greenhouse gases. I do want to let folks know that at the Chester County Solid Waste Authority, we have the most complex greenhouse gas system in the country. So I'm really proud to say that. There have been several comments about Terracycle within the chat and about their ability to deal, I think, with different types of containers. I think all of you have some insight about Terracycle. Can you talk about what's unique about them, why we need that kind of service, and why people really seem to like them?
Well, I can just address why we chose that service. I think what Patty Lynn just referred to, the flexible plastics. For us, it was the gloves, because we were all wearing multiple pairs of gloves a day because they rip. And we also have pallet wrap that comes in every day. And we're trying to find a place that will take those products. And like you said, the Total Recycling is working on being able to process that. It's so hard because they tangle up in the machine. So Terracycle sends, like I said, they send you a box, you fill the box and you send it back to them, and they take it to a recycling place. I feel like it's in Maryland or Virginia. So that's kind of the hardest product we've had to deal with recycling. But they have, I would just look at their website, and I do know that we access the boxes from them, but via Staples, which somehow is less expensive for us. So just.
Can I just say something about Terracycle? They're a company based out of Trenton, New Jersey. They do have a pretty extensive website, as Pat just referred to. There are sometimes schools that might want to partner with them to collect, for example, juice boxes, or, the pouches and things that, locally they cannot collect and recycle. So they'll, send them over to Terracycle or whatever. So they do a lot of that. they've been around, I think, only maybe 15 years, if even that much. The name of the head of the company, his name escapes me, but I heard him speaking at a conference, I think it was last year. It must have been the year before, 2019. One of the things that they are sort of like a real zero waste type thinking company. Remember my first slide where I said we have to rethink, okay, about what we're doing with products? You know, they do like they have people there who look at things that we throw away and say, what can we do with this? You know, like the pods from the coffee, the Keurig, you know, coffee pods and stuff. I think that's one of the things that they also accept. But in terms of the rethinking, and they've been in other countries to develop some programs and collection opportunities for materials. But when I say rethinking, one of the examples he gave was, you know, why do we have toothpaste in a tube? Okay. Remember I said we start at the beginning with zero waste. What is really the purpose of toothpaste? It's to clean your teeth. Do we need to make it in a paste in a tube? What if we just had a little tablet that you put in your mouth? You know, there's like no waste for that, right? And there are other products now coming out like that, you know, being developed. There's, you know, industries that are putting a lot of capital investment into these innovations. And so, you know, I feel like in a few years, we're going to start seeing products like that in the stores. If you look really hard now on the internet, you can find things like that. You know, concentrated tablets to make cleaning products, for example, instead of buying a spray bottle, you know, and maybe you don't use it all up and then you don't know what to do with it, you know. So that is a good, a really good feature of Terracycle. I'm not, you know, I don't work for them. I'm just saying, I am a New Jersey gal though, and they are in Trenton, New Jersey. But that's the way that they've been thinking about waste.
Very progressive. Brad, did you want
Yeah.
to add anything about Terracycle?
I am familiar with Terracycle through Weaver's Way Co-op. I live in Northwest Philadelphia, so we, my family saves some of the packaging that we're able to recycle through the Terracycle program at the co-op. The university has not had a formal relationship with Terracycle, but I'm inspired by Pat's comment that they're able to collect them, the plastic gloves through Terracycle. We've had a lot of conversations in our science laboratories about the number of gloves that they go through. That gets complicated because some of those researchers are handling hazardous materials. So obviously we wouldn't be able to save those with other reusable or single-use gloves. But it's, I'm inspired. So I'll go back and talk to my colleagues who continue to think about this and want to reduce the use and disposal of laboratory gloves.
Nice. Well, here's a question that I actually get asked often, and it's about composting. So this is from Carol Armstrong. She says there's a great need for a commercial compostable facility that can also take non-toxic compostable bioplastics. Is there something like this in the county or that's in the works?
Could I just add one comment about that question?
Absolutely.
So because I looked into this when I was visiting in Northern California where they have such a facility. The problem is they actually don't take any of the compostable bioplastics because the composting facility goes on a 30-day cycle and compostable plastics require a 60 to 180-day cycle. That's just one of the issues. It seems like a bottom line issue. There are probably others. It's difficult to separate compostable plastics from other plastics, but I just wanted to throw that out that the facilities that exist now were probably designed a long time ago, and probably it could be rethought, and Chester County might be able to develop a really state-of-the-art facility. Thanks for letting me add that.
Thanks for the question.
We have one a permitted compost facility that takes some food waste, but not bioplastics or compostable type materials. It is called Arborganics. It is located in South Coventry, which is Upper Chester County. It's totally an outdoor facility. It's not what you would call like an institutional composting facility. And I think that's what the audience member is referring to. And, you know, that is a county level, county solid waste authority level project for sure. You know, you need some land, you need some engineering, you need some capital investment. I think it's a good idea. And thanks for bringing it up.
I do want to take 2 seconds to do a public service announcement. Thanks to Chairman Moskowitz. She put a little note in the chat about where we can go to sign up for your COVID vaccination. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And then there's some discussion in the chat. People really struggle with you know, why do we even have plastic bottles? Even Brita filters drive me crazy. Does anybody want to weigh in on that? I think there's a thought, why do we have them at all? Thoughts?
I could just weigh in because someone had asked why we sell water in plastic bottles at Kimberton. And I can tell you that before the pandemic, and I feel like this whole last year is, you know, a lot of things got backburnered and thrown up in the air while we just dealt with the crisis at hand. But my son, 4 of our children work for our business, and our son Ezra was researching water stations, so to speak, for each store where you could bring in your bottle and fill it. And we will pursue that as soon as we can, and probably will eliminate plastic bottles from the stores. But again, it's one of those things that this year is been put on hold, but I hear the concern, and we share it at Kimberton Whole Foods. I mean, our whole family shares that concern. We're not bottled water buyers. So it will become a thing of the past as soon as we can make it a thing of the past.
Yeah, we struggle with it too. Even in some of our buildings that have water bottle filling stations, there are still some offices that will contract with companies that bring in 5-gallon bottles of water. Now those bottles get reused, so that's a good thing. But there's a lot of carbon emissions and resource consumption that goes with transporting that much water. And we hear from our staff and faculty that there's a level of uncertainty about the quality of the municipal water supply. We think that's misplaced, and we encourage the use of the water bottle filling stations, which do have filters as part of them. But there's a community education component of all of these decisions, and there are larger questions of the way we have an economy that's focused on convenience, which makes single-use water bottles and soda bottles and others the simplest and easiest choice for people many times. So we've got to work on all those areas. As an institution of higher education, that is a challenge we take upon ourselves, but as I started this comment, it's a struggle. There's a lot of work to do.
A lot of challenge, a lot of opportunity. Before I turn the floor over to Mary Frances for closing remarks, I want to give everybody a chance to give our panel a round of applause. You guys have been inspiring. It's been informative. I love the dynamic between all of you. And I can't thank you enough for helping us get an understanding about how you start, what it can mean, what some of the biggest challenges are. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Skilly. I learned a lot.
All right.
Me too.
Well, I think we've come to the end of our program. It is 8:20, I'm sorry, it's 9:23. And in the interest of time, we'd like to make sure we get you on and off the program. There are a couple of interesting points. We are recording this program, and we want to let you know that it will be posted not only on the Chester County Solid Waste Authority's website, but it will be posted in Chester County Economic Development Council's link on our website with a program on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see it again or refer someone to it, please look for those links. Also, just so you know, our Smart Energy Initiative was our partner on this program, and they have their annual energy briefing being held at the end of the month. So for those of you that are interested and intrigued in these energy initiatives, please check our website and look at our events page, and you'll find more information on how to sign up. Again, we thank you for being with us, giving us your time and paying attention. We thank our speakers, Pat and Patty and Brad. Without you, we wouldn't have a program. We're really encouraged and energized by what you're doing in our community. Thank you, Commissioner Moskowitz, and especially Kelly Holcomb. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being the moderator. Kelly is also on the board of our Smart Energy Initiative, as well as the board at the Chester County Solid Waste Authority. So you can see she is really deeply engaged in this initiative. Anyway, we look forward to seeing you for our second meeting, and hopefully we'll have one soon. Thanks again, and have a great day.